these meetings are sort of structured, right? We're really here to talk about the built environment of Albuquerque. What does that mean? That means your parks, your community centers. That means dog parks. That means senior centers. That means all of the different things that the city builds as part of its deployment of municipal programs for the constituency. So today what we're going to sort of do is go through a few different projects that are existent in District 2, some that are going to be planned. Each person should have gotten a little pamphlet as you walked in that outlines the totality of all the different projects for District 2, but we're also going to go ahead and focus in on a few specific ones. But before in addition to that, we're also going to go ahead and learn a little bit about how the capital implementation program works, where the different funding sources come from, and how it is that the city spends your money. Through that, we're going to be hearing from our Department of Municipal Development Director, Jennifer Turner. She'll go through sort of how that program works. We'll be going through some of the different projects with Mayor Tim Keller and Councilor Joaquin Baca. And then we'll also be talking a little bit about a more localized version of this. So we'll have our planning director, Alan Varela, here to speak towards a new software program that the city is rolling out. From there, what we will do is go ahead into breakout sessions. Now, the breakout sessions are going to function, if you see in the back of the room, there's a bunch of different boards that we have set up there. And the way that these work is we're asking folks to put on the post-it notes as well as use these little dots that we'll hand you out at the breakout in order to vote on specific things that you would like to see the city build within your neighborhoods. This could mean new splash pads at the park. This could mean more dog parks. Whatever it is, we have these lined up on that wall there. We'll also be moving some of the chairs from the back of the room so that we're able to actually accommodate people walking around. We also have a variety of different city staff here that are going to be able to talk to you about more specific things in your neighborhood. So whether or not that is, sidewalks, whether that's streetlights, whatever it is, we will have a staff member here to talk to you about that. So without any further ado, I will go ahead and turn this over to Mayor Keller.
Explain the timing, but basically every 2 years, we gather input to spend all sorts of taxpayer money on built environment. And so this is the beginning of that process. It does actually take 2 years, but this is the beginning. And for the first time, we really wanted to get ahead of it and do it at the right time for our first community conversation about built environment. So that's the focus. But I do want to let you know, we do have some folks, and we'll explain this in detail later. We certainly have folks here if you want to talk about public safety. So we're going to have a little area there, and about homelessness. But again, the focus and the experts that are here from the city are really about everything that Doug mentioned.
So getting over to our next area, I will go ahead and bring up our Director of Municipal Development, Jennifer Turner, to walk us through the capital implementation program.
Thanks to all of you for this warm welcome. This is fabulous, and I'm so excited to hear your input on what the city can do better to improve the built environment. I'm Jennifer Turner. I'm the Director of the Department of Municipal Development. What that means and who we are is that we build all the city projects that you see around Albuquerque that make the community better. So everything from this community center, this beautiful community center that we're in, to working on the street lights, to working on fixing potholes in the road, to sidewalk improvements, to intersections, to bike lanes. That's all within DMD's purview. And we have over 300 employees, and as you'll hear a little bit about today, we have hundreds upon hundreds of projects throughout the city. And I have to just give a shout out to all the fabulous employees in DMD who work so hard to make the city better. But I'm here today not to talk about that, but to talk about funding. And these projects take money. And so DMD works very hard in partnership with City Council and with the administration to get funding to support these projects. And so up on the screen, I have a pie chart that shows you where we get all of our funding from. And it's not just one source. You'll see one of the largest pools of money is our local and government obligation bond funding. And as I'll explain in a minute, this is perfect timing for that funding, because now is when we take input on what community needs are, and we can consider that as we engage in planning and funding through that. We also get about equal money from from state and federal sources, as well as our transportation or quarter cent tax. And then also some of our departments fund their projects themselves, and we call them enterprise funds. So total, we have $3 billion in capital funding to support all these projects. So that's a big budget. Okay, next slide, the GO bonds, which I've referenced. We have a 2-year cycle, and really the critical dates are now. Council set the priorities for us a few months ago in saying that this term we have about $175 million of funding for projects. And right now we're taking input from all of you and from departments to decide which projects to fund that will eventually go to you, the voters, in November of next year. And I also wanted to note that in addition to all the different projects that we have, each counselor also gets $1.3 million right now in annual discretionary funding to support the projects that they do. Every 2 years, sorry, yes, I'm getting frantic waves. Every 2 years to support the projects that are important to them. Okay, and then my last slide relates to state capital outlay. This is our process in which council, as well as the administration, approaches the state and the legislators and the governor's office to say, hey, we have these really important projects. Can you please fund us? The issue is that although these funds are available every year, we're also competing with the other governments and entities in the state for the funding. And so we never solely rely on state capital outlay for our projects. It's rather just a part of the funding. And this funding, we have 2 to 4 years to spend it, which is great news because we all like to build things quickly. And so we have a certain amount of time to get things done for the city.
We are more or less on schedule. Now I get to tell you a little bit about citywide projects because we're trying to balance a lot, right? We want to talk to you about your communities, but we also know we all live like in the greater metro area. And so we do want to touch on these projects. And so what I want to do is begin, and ironically, because of downtown, you have 2 of the largest projects in the city. So that's pretty cool. So the first one is the rail yards. And many of you know the long history of this property and how we use it for the market. But for the first time in about 50 years, it is going to have a tenant. And that tenant is going to be C&M. And it is going to be the home of a film academy. And these are some renderings of it. It's going to be inside this building here. And it's a building in a building to maintain the historic structure. And this project is also like going to happen. So it's under construction now. Our kids, hundreds of our kids are going to be studying there after about 18 months of construction. So very excited about that. By the way, that's a $63 million investment into the community. Okay, the rail trail, another one that cuts through almost all of this district. Thanks, by the way. I appreciate that. I always joke, a lot of these ideas are old ideas, and I respect the people who thought of them a long time ago. What we're doing is finally getting them done. And so I think this is another one. This is an old idea, the rail trail. And so again, visualize downtown. You've got the rail yards, then you have downtown and like Civic Plaza, Convention Center, rail lines. And then as you hook around through Wells Park and you go around to the Sawmill, you have a rail spur. And on that spur, it actually goes all the way to Old Town. This is what the rail trail is. It's like the High Line in New York. Have some of you heard of this or seen it? So it's going to be a pedestrian parkway. It's meant to help commuters and bicycling and all of that recreation, but also on the weekends, it's meant to be for fun. It's actually meant to just be an enjoyable piece of our built environment and also help with social determinants of health. So it's a loop. I know it's really small, but you can come look at it after. There's a loop that goes from the rail yards all the way through downtown on that rail spur, all the way to Old Town, to the Bosque, to the Hispanic Cultural Center and back. It's a 7-mile loop. And this project is half funded. We're going to be breaking ground on 2 out of 16 phases. So this is a long train on this one. But we are going to start. And I want to tell you just a little bit about the design. Has anyone heard of Antoine Predock? He's like a famous architect guy. All right, good. Glad some of you have. Yes, and recently passed away. And actually, since you mentioned that, I do want to share this. So this was Antoine's last project. And I actually got to know him quite well over the last few years. And he knew he had cancer and he knew he was going to pass. And he wanted this to be like his last achievement. And the amazing thing is, I'm not kidding you, he sent me the designs. I got them over email 3 days before he passed away. Now, and so he's, without going too long, because we need to stay on time, I don't want to expound so much on like Antoine, but the guy is one of the top architects, like was the top, one of the top 10 living architects in the world, and he lived right here. So anyway, he designed a vision for this, that this would tell our story as a community. His vision is that as you go on the trail, there will be stations that will tell our story of our indigenous communities. They will tell the story of Route 66 starting. They will tell the story of the train coming. They will tell the story of El Camino Real. And so there's 11 different stations. And it tells you this story in different ways. Sometimes it's collages that you actually walk across, like on the concrete. But there's also mixed media, so you can have an app where you hear the oral history of people who were here, like when the highway came through and things like this. So it's awesome. Very, very cool project. So it's an Antoine Predock designed, visioned project. And so that is the rail trail. So the Sunport, we won't spend a lot of time on this, but it's an airport. Here's what you need to know is we're keeping its character. And so we're keeping its traditional character. It's going to look the same. These are renderings of what it will look like. And it has the largest local art investment in the history of the city going into it. And it'll have the same feel, but it's going to have a new food court. So that's basically what we're doing at the Sunport. All right. Now, Biopark, also in your district. This is like, usually we just really whip through these, but like these are cool projects in your district. Heritage Farm is an area near the Botanic Gardens in the back of it. And some of you may remember like seeing like a horse in the middle of nowhere kind of for some reason. That's Heritage Farm. It has gotten an awesome upgrade. I think it's about 13 million. And we're going to demonstrate live farming from our 3 sort of historical periods. So there'll be indigenous farming, there'll be Spanish colonial farming, and then there'll be sort of like Santa Fe Trail territorial farming. Live examples like crops grown and programs for kids and the whole thing, and an old-timey train for the kids. So we're bringing that one back. And so also we're getting more penguins. These ones are little. I mean, penguins are great. They are little blue penguins that don't require refrigeration. So I know, you can Google them and check it out. Pretty cool. We're also adding dog parks. We're doubling the number of dog parks in the city. And we've added several new mini dog parks. I know one is up right by Washington Middle School and Benny Hargrove Park. Okay, and we've got Balloon Fiesta Park. Again, we can talk about this after. We are putting $13 million worth of upgrades so that you can actually have bathrooms that flush. And so, right, it's about time. So we're working on that, and we're doing these regardless of the stadium. So I want you to know the stadium, the building is funded for by the team, but we're doing all these improvements that work together. So there's a bunch of sewage and electrical, and so we're going to use that no matter what. Okay, the Gateway Center. This is the old Lovis Hospital. Everyone remember the old Lovis Hospital? This used to heal 1,000 people or help 1,000 people a day. We wanted to do the same thing. And so without going into too much, again, I can do this after about our situation with the unhoused, but we've done 2 things to work on this. We created a new department of social workers called ACS, Albuquerque Community Safety, and they will go out for behavioral and mental health calls, so police and fire don't have to, but they have to have somewhere to take people to get help. And initially, sometimes it's just a bed and some food, and then access like a day later to help and housing. So the gateway is meant to be literally that. It's a gateway. You're not supposed to stay there forever. You stay there like a clearinghouse, and then you get sorted out to the right location. So the gateway is like over almost 24 different things inside it. There is medical respite. These are for folks who don't have a home, but they're recovering from surgery. It has crisis triage. It has rehab. It has detox. It has all sorts of things inside it, and it also has different platforms to get folks housing vouchers. So that's just a 101 on the gateway, and again, I can talk about that after if folks want, but it's part of connecting that transport to meet people where they are, but also be able to transport them to somewhere where they can get help that's not jail and that's not the emergency room. Okay. Thanks.
The planning department, in case some of you have tried over the years, has been a little tough to connect with when it comes to finding out the status of something happening on a piece of property in town. They implemented a software program quite a few years back that is clunky at best, not really user-friendly or intuitive. And so over the last several years, we listened to the community. They said they didn't like it, and we said we're going to put another one in that is state-of-the-art, that is based on GIS mapping. So it actually means that if you go into a particular address and you'll be able to put it in there, or you can go to that address and make a little bit larger area. You can geofence it, that's called. You can put your contact info in there and you can check some boxes on what sort of notices you'd like to get in your email automatically. So you will know automatically on that piece of property if a building permit has been applied for example, if that permit has been issued, if somebody is asking to develop that property and they've submitted an application for review. And so we call it Community Connect. It's part of the ABQ plan. We're looking at having this up and running probably late this fall. It takes about 2 years to get these right. We're about 18 months into it because we're going to make sure that all the old data is clean and comes into the new system and that all these functions work. So we're really happy to let you know about ABQ plan. Be watching for it, okay? Planning department also, in case you're wondering, all these hundreds of millions of dollars in projects, we also oversee the quality of the build on those. So we have our building safety area. They review the plans, they make sure that they meet codes, and then we go out and do the inspections and eventually issue the certificates of occupancy so that all of us can start enjoying these great projects. That's what the planning does. We'll be here as well for the rest of the meeting. We look forward to talking to you. Thank you very much.
All righty. So we have one final little piece to cover right here. And did everyone get one of these as they walked in? No? Okay. If the public affairs team, could you bring in a few more of these? And then if you just want to keep your hand raised, we'll make sure that you get one. But if you don't have one and want to share it with your neighbor, we want to talk a little bit about this one real quick. So this is a new little piece that we created, and it's called the Neighbor Hub. So if everyone wants to take out their smartphone, what you can go ahead and do is open your camera and cover it over the scan code on the back. And so what this will do, and I'll let sort of folks get going with that, and I don't know if some folks have already done it already, but what we've actually done is worked with the GIS team in the city to actually map out all of the different city services and amenities that sort of exist within your area. So what's really cool about this is that you can enter your address in the top bar and it'll show you within a 1 or 2 mile area where the nearest community center is, where the nearest senior center is, the summer meal sites or senior meal sites, right? We're actually listing out all sorts of different things, whether this is police substations, museums, libraries, or parks and open spaces. So these are sort of designed to, be a nice little fridge hanger for any time that you might want to check out sort of what the different amenities are in your area. Okay, so now we go into the next portion of this, the breakout sessions. So this is sort of the portion where we really want to hear what you are interested in. So what we're going to do first is introduce you to a few different key city staff that are going to be able to talk to you about different projects in your neighborhood. But I want to sort of explain how the breakouts work. So as you noticed, it's a very packed house tonight, which is fantastic. We love to see it. We want to make sure that we're getting people involved. And I mentioned we have all the different boards in the back right here. So I know that some folks have already started putting up the little Post-its, which is awesome. But also over on the right on the windows, I know someone mentioned like restrooms in parks, right? Like that's one that you can vote on. We actually have that set up on the board there. And what we'll be doing is distributing 6 little stickers and dots that will ask folks so that they can vote on different projects that they would like to see in their district. This is the, what we call dotmocracy. So we view it as a really effective and fun way for you to actually sort of showcase what you would really like to see in here.